Hey guys, Eric Waller here, Regular Joe CEO. Here for another installment. Um, I wanted to tonight talk to you about a topic that I've got a lot of feedback wanting to hear about, and that's time management. So it's a topic that's kind of near and dear to my heart, but I want to give you a forewarning. It's not because I'm an expert at it. So there are a lot of systems out there to help manage your time. There are a lot of methods to manage your time. There are a lot of tools and products you can purchase to manage your time. There are digital solutions, there are analog solutions. So I'm just going to tell you about what works best for me. And so, um, obviously, an electronic calendar to remind you of events is really kind of invaluable today, and it's hard to not use. But I find it's not the most effective for me, although I do use it. I probably couldn't do without a calendar. So I think a basic of time management for the big blocks is a calendar. It's, plan your day out or your weeks ahead out. But I don't think that's really time management. That's more about um, memorializing decisions you've made and making sure you keep those commitments. So I'd argue a calendar is more of a commitment management tool than a time management tool. The best time management tool, in my opinion, is to figure out what you're not going to work on. Because if you're an effective leader or an aspiring leader or an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, what you'll find is that you're just going to have more requests for your time than are possible to fulfill. And so you have to prioritize what you're going to work on. And the best way to prioritize what I'm going to work on for me is to decide what I'm not going to work on. And so I'm going to teach you a little concept trick that I think when you guys hear this, will sound really familiar to you. But one of the things that in my line of business, I'm what they call a generalist. And I think most experts would tell you in my line of business, you don't want to be a generalist. You need to be an expert. But I've found a measure of success being a generalist. But there are some things that I would argue that I feel I do have an expert skill level at. And one of the things that I'll tell you that I think I'm really good at is I don't let other people's problems become my problems. And so that means if you're not managing your time well and you're not managing your schedule well and you live your life in an unmanaged way that creates chaos, I can be pretty accommodating to that. And if you work for me or with me and that's how you run your business and it works for you, I'm totally accommodating about that. But when you cross the line and try to make that problem my problem, I just don't deal with it. If I have a problem and it's clear that it's your problem making it my problem, it's robbing my time and I just deal with it. The best way I found to deal with it is just point it out directly and say, hey, you're making your problem my problem. This was your task. Now it's my task, and we're not going to do this twice. Maybe I'm going to fix this time, but we're not going to fix it next time. And let's talk about ways that we can not do that. Another way to decide so that's number one, not making other people's problems my problems. If you'll master that skill, you'll win the battle. And let me be clear. This doesn't mean you don't help people with their problems. It doesn't mean you just say, not my job, okay? So if you're hearing me thinking, yeah, I got other people having me, that's not my job, you're definitely going to fail, okay? The not my job is a word doesn't come out of my mouth. Not my problem is. And so, number one, don't let other people's problems become your problems, at least not periodically and not frequently and not as a practice. Number two is eliminate things that the organization you're running is doing. Okay, that sounds kind of counterintuitive. Well, I want my organization to do more. Maybe I'm running a 3-man crew and I need my crew to get more. Or maybe I'm running a 300-person organization and I need to deliver more. Or maybe I'm drilling oil wells and I need to drill more of these things. And that's fine. But what you don't want to do is have so many initiatives and projects and things going on in your organization that people are just constantly working on so many things that they're not getting something done. Because what happens is that robs everyone's time. It robs them of focus, okay? So a focused organization is an efficient organization. A focused organization uses their time more wisely. A focused project manager focuses more on the project, not on other projects. Okay, so focus on what needs to get done. One of my favorite tools on decide what needs to get done is Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Stephen Covey talks about in his book about an XY axis or a 2x2 or a Boston square, whatever you want to call it. But on one axis, say the X axis, it'll say urgent or not urgent. And on the other axis, it'll say important or not important. So if it's not important and urgent, it shouldn't be in your shop, right? It shouldn't be in your wheelhouse. It shouldn't be on your desk. It shouldn't be in your inbox, okay? And if it's urgent and important, something probably went wrong, okay? And you got to deal with urgent and important. But if you're always dealing with urgent and important, you're probably not categorizing things correctly. So what you should be working on is, and let's talk, another one is not important and not urgent, and that's stuff you just should not do. But not urgent and important, those are long lead items, and this is the skill as a leader that is the hardest to develop, because as a new leader and a new entrepreneur and a new manager, new CEO, new VP, new whatever, district whatever, you're given these short-term goals, right? But somewhere in the organization, someone is thinking long-term goals, and there's nothing says, you can't think about long-term things until you're a strategic thinker that the organization is paying to be a strategic thinker. You can set long-term goals for your organization, for your people, or for yourself. And those are things that you say, okay, in 1 year or 3 years, I'd like to develop the following skills, or I'd like to develop the following process or procedure, or I'd like this capacity to be developed within my organization, or I'd like to build a, whatever. And so these are things that take a long time, and you just kind of chip away as time goes on. If you're not doing those long lead item things, you're missing the boat. All my fitness people in the audience, you know what I'm talking about. This is like you can't skip leg day, right? You got to do the things. It takes time. You don't get instant gains when you're exercising or muscle or whatever. You don't get instant weight loss if you're eating right, but you do the little things and they add up, okay? So that's another thing. So when we talk about time management, it's don't let other people's problems become your problems as a habit. Don't decide what you're not going to do first, and then what you're going to do it well. And if you're finding that you're dealing with fires in your organization, if you remember, we talked about the capability trap, and we talked about the firefighter's dilemma episode or 2 ago, I don't remember. And that's about if you don't develop, the skills you need, you're constantly dealing with this. And that's kind of episodic of that if you're constantly having these urgent, not important things happening on your desk. But also a lot of urgent, not important things come to your desk because of how you train people to come to you as a leader. So if every time the person who has their hair's on fire comes in your office, gets all the attention and the resources, well, guess what people learn? They learn to light their hair on fire. It doesn't mean that you ignore people when that happens. You have to. You got to be very careful what you do and don't do. But it means if it's happening all the time, you need to look at yourself. And again, that's a common theme with the shows I'm doing is what can you do as a leader? What can I do? What can Eric do to be a better leader? So that's kind of the theme there. It's get things off your plate. Don't let someone else's problem be your problem. And then now let's talk about the basic tools. So we talked about calendars. I'm really big on time management tools that are analog. So when I'm doing time management really well, I am usually keeping a paper calendar. And that sounds really odd, but there's something about mechanically writing something down that kind of puts it to memory. And so try to explain this phenomenon, but oftentimes if I'm not managing my schedule or my time or my calendar well, I'm constantly rehearsing the list of things to do in my head. It's like, I got to remember this, I got to remember that. Well, if I'm constantly rehearsing the list of things I have to do all day, then I'm not finding kind of a center as a leader and thinking about the bigger picture or thinking about a specific problem. And so if you're finding yourself constantly distracted by your schedule and what's next, what's going on, find a way to maybe write it down. If writing it down doesn't work, here's another way. Print your daily calendar. When you come to work in the morning, print it out or print your weekly calendar. You can hit print. You don't have to write everything down if it doesn't work. Scribble on it. carry it with you. Do something manual. So there's a certain analog effect. Computers don't fix everything. And if you think computers fix everything, you're missing the boat. Computers are a powerful tool, a powerful communication device, a powerful computational device, but they are no substitution for certain basic things that our bodies are just really good at. And one of them is writing something down. I know I have other friends that help manage their thoughts and schedules through really complicated Franklin reminders or day timers or these different tools that you've seen. You buy them at Office Depot, Office Max, Amazon, eBay, a million of them, right? I just bought a new one this week. Maybe I can talk one of the staff here into running down and see if they can find a little blue thing downstairs. If you don't mind, if you do that, please. And I'll show you what I just bought. Quite frankly, this particular time management tool I just bought is probably going to go on the pile of all the other stuff I bought that doesn't work very well. But I keep trying, and that's kind of another theme, is you always got to try to get better than you were the day before. And so I saw this new product. I said, I'll try that. Some people write it in spiral notebooks. Some people are really good at the complicated things. Some people are really rigorous and really regimented, and they manage their time in 15-minute increments. And for me, that's just too cumbersome, but I'm not saying don't do it. For some people, it works, and that's the kind of rigor they need. I try to block out the big things, right? So if I need to make a meeting, I make a meeting. If I've accepted a meeting request or somebody wants to come by for 30 minutes thank you. If somebody comes by for 30 minutes, then and say something, or let's say somebody reaches out and says, Eric, I'd like to meet you for coffee. And I say, yeah, I'll give you 15 minutes. I'm very fortunate in that I have some assistants at my work who can help manage that. And so oftentimes my assistant will say, by the way, her name's Dina. She's awesome. So shout out to Dina. But she'll say, do you really want 15 minutes, or is this 30 minutes, or is this 10 minutes, or do you want me to get them out here as fast as you can, or how do you want me to manage this? And usually I say, hey, I really want to meet this person, but my time's limited, so let's keep it to 15 or 20 minutes. When the person comes in to meet me, I say, hey, look, I'm glad to meet you. I want to focus on our time together, but I have a hard stop in 15 minutes. I want you to be aware of that. So keep your eye on the clock if you got things you want to let me know. So here's a cool little thing that I just bought. It's called a weekly action plan. So this is kind of the opposite of the 15-minute increments. This is kind of a weekly action plan. So this is just more of a checklist about you'll have a priority, a project, a task, a time, a due date. And if you notice, that's all it is. It's just big list of that. So what this helps me do is things that I've committed to do. If it's important enough for me to write it down and put a time date and a due date, then it's probably important enough for me to be in my calendar. Now, I recognize that everybody's a CEO and you got other people that are in charge of your calendar for some of your time. That's fine. I have a board of directors I report to. I have investors and people that loan us money that I'm accountable to. But if something's a priority, then get it on a list somewhere. If a list doesn't work, get it on the calendar. If a calendar doesn't work, do it digitally. If you're a Trello, you're a Scrum, you're a whatever other tools, whatever your tools are, just use it. That's number one. And number two is, thank you. Number two is, if it ain't working, get another tool, okay? So all that little weekly action pad is a template for me to organize my thoughts. There are just hundreds or thousands of them. So get something and try it. If you're sitting around going, I wish that I was better at time management, but you won't spend like 5 minutes reading an article on time management, or 3 minutes and $10 on an Amazon spree to kind of manage it better, or all employers are going to kill me, but maybe you just you make a template, you draw it with a ruler, and then you use the company copying machine to make you some copies. No, they won't care. So, but do something, right? But if you're going to sit around and just dream about it, then you're just dreaming, okay? And this you're not going to hear that from me. So take action. The other thing I want to say about time management is time management is a theory, not a practice. There are people really good at it and rigor, but if you never met these people that are ultra rigorous, they tend to get really freaked out when their schedule gets changed, okay? So I guess what I'm saying is, I admire people who are rigorous. At Admire people who are completely flexible. For me, it's a balance of trying to insert rigor into my life because I am pretty much a laissez-faire kind of, shoot off the hip kind of a manager. Some people will say, Eric, you're unbelievably organized. That always shocks me to hear it because I feel completely unorganized. But when I see really, really organized people who are really, really rigorous, my advice to them would be maybe you ought to relax a little bit and be a little more flexible. And if you're completely flexible and you never have a schedule and everybody wants to know why you're always late to a meeting, maybe you ought to show up on time and manage your schedule a little better, okay? So there's a difference between manage your time and manage your commitments. If you commit to be somewhere at 10 o'clock, be there at 10 o'clock. If you can't be there at 10 o'clock, you need to say, hey, I'd like to make an appointment with you at 10 o'clock, but historically, I'm about 10 minutes late to everything I do for my whole life. I'm probably going to be late for my funeral. I was late to my wedding. I was late to my own birth. And just be frank, okay? Or Sally or whatever you're going to be. But just be honest about your time. There's the funny thing I'll say before I go, but there's I always joke about there's the 15-minute early tribe and there's the 15-minute late tribe. And the 15-minute early tribe is always really upset at the 15-minute late tribe because they're always late. And the 15-minute late tribe can't understand why the 15-minute early tribe doesn't just relax a minute, okay? Figure out which tribe you're in, move towards the center, at least move towards whoever's on the other spectrum of your time commitment that you've made. If you made a commitment, keep your commitments. It has nothing to do with time management. That's about commitment keeping. And that means you don't value their time as much as yours if you waste it. Okay, that's how people view that. So don't be that person. So time management is a skill that you have to practice, develop, train, find something that works, whatever it is. It's not that hard. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Pick something to start on it. If it's sticky notes, sticky notes. If it's weekly action pads, it's weekly action pads. If it's your electronic calendar on your phone, do that, okay? Or do all three. Stick a sticky note on your phone, put your phone on your weekly action pad. But do something, okay? And just try to get a little better and don't be too hard on yourself. So the Jackie will kill me if I don't talk about our social media. And so you can follow us on our Facebook site, RegularJoeCeo. You can follow on our Twitter, RegularJoe_CEO, our Instagram, RegularJoeCeo. And as always, I think it's cute and funny to mention RegularJoeCeo.com, which is a website that we own that doesn't exist. Someday we'll build a website, but for now we're just working on videos. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.